This podcast is brought to you by Craft Beer and Brewing magazine for those that love to make and drink great beer. To learn more or to subscribe, visit beerandbrewing.com or find us on social media at Craft Beer Brew. Joining me for this episode, we're going to talk about some West Coast Pilsner, some West Coast IPA, some West Coast hoppy beers, because we're here on the West Coast with Justin Burdt, head brewer for Ghost Town Brewing. Welcome to the Craft Beer and Brewing podcast, Justin.
Hey, stoked to be here, dude.
Well, I am stoked to be talking to you about beer. We had this random encounter at CBC in Nashville. I shouldn't say it wasn't random. It was really more like calculated on my part. Where your crew rolled in to Monday Night Brewing, where we were hanging out that night of CBC. And it's like, conversations happened. I knew I was coming out here for this. Like, I had been wanting for weeks to get a conversation going with Ghost Town, because you guys win a lot of medals in hoppy beer categories. Justin, a lot.
Hey, we've been lucky these last few years, I guess,
Well, we're going to try to figure out what you do to cause that luck, because there's no such thing as luck when you win GABF Gold 2 years in a row, 2021 and 22, for your double IPA Nose Goblin. By the way, the recipe for Nose Goblin, or a homebrew scaled recipe for Nose Goblin, is in the latest spring 2023 issue of Craft Beer and Brewing magazine. So pick that up if you're not already a subscriber. Of course, everybody wants to read the recipe, and thank you for providing that, Justin.
My pleasure.
You also won GABF Gold in 2022 for Mordant IPA, a silver for your Cave Dweller West Coast Pils, World Beer Cup silver in 2022 for Ossuary Robust Porter. That's a lot of medals in a short amount of time, and in some pretty highly competitive categories. And we are going to use this podcast to dive into how exactly you did that, and try to pick apart all of the little details that help you make successful West Coast IPA, West Coast Pilsner, and hoppy beers in general. Before we do that, G&D Chillers, the brewing industry's premier choice for glycol chilling, are proud of the cool partnerships they've built over the past 30 years. G&D Chillers has set the standard on quality, service, and reliability, with 24/7 service and support. Want to maximize efficiency in your chiller? G&D's micro-channel condensers are designed for less power draw. Their lighter weight, more compact design uses up to 70% less refrigerant, which means a lower GWP and lower operating costs. Reach out for a quote today at gdchillers.com or call to discuss your next project. There's a GD chiller in the room right next to us right now, isn't there, Justin?
There is, and it kicks ass.
Also, this episode is sponsored by BSG, distributors of Gambrinus Malting, Canada's original small batch artisanal malt house. If you've been searching for the perfect malt that's not quite pale and not Munich, you're in luck. Gambrinus Vienna is the malt you've been looking for. This mellow kilned malt has a balanced bready character with notes of honey, toffee, and caramel baked in. With a gorgeous golden color, it's ideal for adding depth without too much sweetness. Visit bsgcraftbrewing.com to learn more. And as your brewing making its own ciders, seltzers, and other beverages beyond beer, if you need a central source for fruit flavor, Old Orchard has you covered. Old Orchard supplies flavored craft juice concentrate blends to beverage brands for the production of beer, cider, seltzer, wine, spirits, kombucha, and more. Flavor your lineup and streamline your sourcing by heading to oldorchard.com/brewer. So, Justin, you listen to the podcast. You know what we do next. You know how we get this started, right? We're going to talk a little bit about history. So why don't you tell you your brewing history and give us the Cliff Notes history on Ghost Town?
Sure. Yeah. So I started
while I drink some more West Coast IPA and listen to you talk for a second.
Please. I got into the industry professionally in 2013. Started kind of I was a home brewer gone pro. I was fortunate enough to work under some really good brewers. My starting spot was Black Diamond Brewing in Concord, California. For those of you that know about that, it was small. There's some sad stories about it, but I had some great brewers I worked under, and worked my way up there, yada, 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 kind of teach you production aspects, teaches you all the right techniques and all that. And then from there, just, kept my head in where I loved, was hops, and kind of kept growing and growing with hops. But while I was only there for about 3 years, and in the 3 years I was there, I went from internship to head brewer pretty quick. So a lot of pressure, a lot of shit to figure out, which was cool. I can't say I made the best beer there by any means, but I learned on their dime and,
Sure.
And all that. But as I was getting more and more into it, this was back, 2013. So 2014-ish, Mosaic, Citra, Eldorado, all these cool hops are kind of hitting the market. And we had them all contracted. We had, our original head brewer had all that. Regardless, as we kept going, beers were just inconsistent, yada, yada. And, and that's when it kind of clicked in my head back then. It was like, well, let's keep better track of hops. Let's keep better track of, let's Mosaic just isn't Mosaic. Citra just isn't Citra. Simcoe just isn't Simcoe, right? And especially when you get in 3 different lots. Anyway, so kind of just, I already had the lever hops going into it. Kind of got me more exposed to some really awesome hops as they were coming out and peaking. So kind of just kept working, doing what we were doing there. Some shit happened there with the owners. Writing was on the wall that it was probably going to close down within the next 2 years. I had met the guys here at Ghost Town at actually a yeast class held by White Labs. And we were just hanging out and randomly got grouped up and started talking death metal, which was both of us had a lot in common with. So, we're talking metal and all that. And then they were like, hey, can we bring our beers by for you guys to try? So we trying the beers, developed this relationship with Ghost Town. Maybe 8 months into it, you kind of approached these guys and I was like, hey, I'm ready to move on because, I don't have a permanent career here. So came over to Ghost Town. We're on a 1-barrel system. This is about 6 years ago. This is 2016, beginning
You
of 2016.
joined up here when you were brewing a 1-barrel system.
1 barrel, yes. So we had 2 boil kettles and a 1-barrel mash just on a big, good old homebrew style looking thing. And we were doing 10 barrels a week. So Monday, Thursdays were 3 barrels. Tuesday, Friday were 2 barrels. Wednesday was down day for ordering, maintenance bullshit. And it was long days and you're kind of just trying to do it. And at that point we didn't have a tap room. We were just doing retail.
You were doing retail off of a system that size.
Oh yeah. And hand bottling too.
Ouch.
We do 10 barrels and and Wednesday was packaging day. And we legitly hand bottled bombers all fucking day long, free carbonated out of the bright tank and all that. But, it had, everything felt right with these guys.
Paying your dues. That is definitely a dues paying kind of experience.
We had no floor drains at that brewery. Oof. No floor drains. We had a sink. Yeah. So we had to find ways to drain. That's a lot of belief
and a lot of love to to jump in and do it that kind of way.
And 500 barrels a year, which is that's a decent amount if you don't have floor drains.
System that size, sure.
Or
sure.
No drains, should I say.
Right.
But yeah. And so came over here, had a great relationship with these guys already, friends. And then, just kind of kept, nerding out on the hops, doing what I love, talking to people, reading books, educating myself, spending time in Yakima, and, sticking to my favorite ingredient in the brewing process. And, from there, we went from a 1-barrel to a 15-barrel brew house. And then we opened up our tap room and we were doing 15 barrels a week, 30 barrels, and it just organic growth. And now we built it up to, it was just me and one other employee. Now we have, between our brewery and our restaurant, we have 45 people staffed. We're currently on a 30-barrel 4-vessel brew house, and we're doing, double batches right now. And that's all we can do because our water can't even keep up with that barely, so, and we don't have $100,000 right now to, give to the local water company to come and increase our pipe diameter. So, but I came to Ghost Town, awesome owners, and they gave me the freedom to kind of just do what I love and stick to hops. And we learned together as a team. We made some mistakes, and we grew from it, and kind of got us to where we are now. So yeah,
no, that's quite the organic growth story right there. As to go from a 1 barrel system to a 30 barrel system with a 115, step along the way. And from what I understand, you've got future growth plans that are going to hopefully be even bigger than this. Kind of wild to pull all of this off here in Oakland, California. It's a market that is well established for craft beer, where there are plenty of people, plenty of historic craft brewers here in the Bay Area. And tell me about that kind of development within this broader Bay Area brewing scene.
Sure. Yeah. So when we came into it, one thing I say we did well is we stuck to our guns with West Coast IPA. They were, before I joined them, were focusing on West Coast IPAs. They had a rye IPA, a single, and then a double, and then a pale ale, but all clear, and this is kind of right when the hazy thing's kind of kicking off and all that. And, we make hazies, and we're not, you have to do it.
It's a shame you make West Coast IPA because, who wants to buy those anymore?
What the fuck's wrong with people, dude? No, but no, it was, where I came from, we were still making a bunch of West Coast, and we all took pride in it because it's like, as much as the haze things, it's cool, and there's styles
the
you can
West
drink what
Coast
you want to drink.
IPA never went away.
100%, and we were fortunate enough. We stuck with that. We did that, and that's kind of now it's what we're known for. Like we make West Coast. We're currently,
So what were those early influences? Where were you drawing inspiration from as a brewer? In those early days, and what was it? It was like, this is the way I want to make it. And then where did you start going, from a creative process from there to figure out how you went from being inspired to then making something that was your own?
Yeah, totally. Inspiration, local breweries, Russian River, hands down.
Sure.
Number one, Blind Pig was something that we would always be consuming. At the time, also another, we're inspired by Stone. Kind of like the OGs in the West Coast craft scene, But from there, it was just kind of like, how can we make our beers taste like their beers without this proper education and all that?
I'm sure Firestone Walker played a little bit of role in it here in the Central Coast,
Of course. Oh yeah. Actually, Firestone, for me, the Pivo Pils that was kind of like our drinking beer. But inspiration, honestly, it was just being hopheads, and, I talked to you a little bit, I have a little bit of a cannabis background too, which kind of go hand in hand and all that. But, to me, it was just trying to chase this flavor profile that nobody else was doing here, with the exception of Russian River, but not truly being able to, know what their recipes are or anything like that. So it was just how do we perfect this? How do we perfect our yeast management on the small scale, right? How do we perfect hop quality? How do we perfect transfers? How do we perfect oxidation? How do we do all this type of stuff? And then, as I kept dialing, you truly realize, obviously your practices are most important, but next to that, our hop quality was most important to us too. Because, I came from a professional background too. So we had our practices pretty much dialed in. And now Ghost Town gave me the opportunity to really just get into the hop side of things and start learning farms, start getting the selection, and which, didn't happen our first 2 years, but we were able to quickly kind of grow. And I will, if I'm allowed to drop some names.
Sure, of course.
Cellar Maker hooked us up with some awesome mosaic, and it was little things like that.
They're
just
lovely
like
people over there.
They're badass, man. But that, opened our minds because we're buying stuff off spot. Then you smell this and you
realize what a selected, kind of hop from this can do and how much different it feels from and smells from the thing that you're used to when you buy that in that kind of way on the spot market.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So and that's kind of where I just dissected and I just
blinders
fell
off.
For and
it's like, the true nature of reality has been revealed to you. And now you have to soak all of this up and, pursue that as far as you can.
Yeah. And not give up and just keep going. And what can I do to get these hops? What do we need to do? Do we have to hit a volume? Do we have to meet these people? And it's a game. To an extent, right? You have to hit a volume. You do have to know so-and-so. And, we learned that. And so we developed, we increased production, which let us buy more hops. And finally we hit a certain point where we can select. And then we learned from there. And then we met the farmers that grew the hops that we really liked. And we fell in love with certain farms. And But yeah, ultimately, I mean, I think what took us from that one barrel to where we are now was the love for hops, and the just obsessed about trying to chase a certain aroma in this one hop profile and this other hop profile. And then from there, once we find the hops we like, then we scale it back and we kind of go into fermentation techniques, hopping techniques, and all these other things. But we can't do all that until we have a product that we're stoked on. And we have to be happy with it. We know we can make work both ways. So like, the old saying, you can't make good beer with shitty hops, but you can make shitty beer with good hops, and so we are starting to get to the point where we got fucking awesome hops. And, it's, I don't want to say it's that easy, but if you have good practices and you do things and you have quality ingredients, you're going to make good beer, but it comes down to your practices too, a lot. So.
Right. Or you're going to make good beer if you're a good beer maker.
Yes.
And I want to figure out how you didn't fuck it up at that point with now access to great hops. Before we talk about that, AccuBrew now monitors specific gravity to ensure consistent results and detect problems before they ruin a batch. The AccuBrew system is designed to give you unprecedented insight into the fermentation process, monitor gravity, fermentation activity, clarity, and temperature, schedule reminders, and receive alerts anywhere, anytime. AccuBrew's CIP-ready device is designed to stay out of your way. They know your time and space is precious, and they take up as little of both as possible. No more samples, no cleaning, and no calibration. Set it and forget it. To learn more about AccuBrew, head on over to accubrew.io. Also, brewing is currently one of the most innovative, adaptive, and fast-paced industries in the world. With consumer demand shifting to the latest and greatest trend, it can be difficult for production teams to keep up with requirements. The ProFill series of rotary can fillers from ProBrew are accelerating plant production everywhere. These can fillers run at speeds between 100 and 600 plus cans per minute, while achieving precise and consistent filling volumes not achievable by most inline and mobile fillers. For more information, visit www.probrew.com or email contact us at probrew.com to learn exactly how they can take your operations to the next level. ProBrew, brew your beer. And Tabsky QR code ordering is the future of brewery ordering. With Tabsky, your customers can order and pay for their beers right from their phones by scanning a QR code on the table. Get rid of lengthy lines and increase check size by up to 30%. Tabsky is free for operators and integrates seamlessly with popular payment systems like Clover and Square. So why not join the future of brewery ordering and give Tabsky a try? Learn how you can get started today at Tabsky. That's TABSKI.com. All right, Justin. So you're finally getting good hops. You're finally getting hops that you are super stoked on, that you can see the quality in. Number one, my first question is, how do you define those things? Like, how do you, in your picture as you're evaluating hops, what's the difference between great hops, good hops, and average hops?
Totally. Let me, let's talk Mosaic, which is, in my opinion, to this day, still the best hop out there, in my opinion. But like when we're going,
that's not really a hot take. I mean, that's a great hop.
I mean, it just plays well with others, sure, and it plays well by itself. Citra. I mean, we all know what the really awesome hops are. But yeah, for us, like for me, when I'm going in for the hop, the one thing I found that worked really well was it's more coming from a sensation standpoint and not necessarily. I'm looking for blackberry at this point, passion fruit at this point. Like I'd kind of drop the adjectives and just went straight for sensations. Like because I would say we're still brewing on an artistic standpoint more than a scientific standpoint. We kind of let our ingredients do what they do to us. But like to me, like awesome Mosaic. And real quick to be clear, we do select multiple lots, so we pick different kind of flavor points. Just nowadays we do. We didn't do this then. We can do that now, so
now
we can
do that much more volume where you can have multiple different.
Yes, we'll have our T90s from two different suppliers and our cryo from YCH. We're YCH heavy, because they're awesome products. But anyway, like we go in for Mosaic, and let's just say the 75%, the heavy Mosaic that we go for is going to be what I would call
the heavy Mosaic.
Well, my dank ass motherfucking shit. I look for fucking armpit. I look for berry in the background. But then I do this, the way I call it is it's like that wasabi sting. You know, like when you do wasabi and you get that nostril sting right up between your eyes. If you rub let's say like it comes down to two different lots right in front of you and they're both giving you everything you like. You go for the one that has that, I don't know what the chemical is that's coming off of it, but it gives you the sensation. And that's kind of like my go-to for our Mosaic or Citras or Simcoes and all that, you know, like we'll find
my Mosaic has to hurt.
It does.
It's gotta hurt.
But in a great way. And
the most metal thing that you've said so far in this podcast, which for a brewery that's so predicated on metal is pretty awesome.
Fucking hurts, brother. Yeah. But and to me, that's like, it comes across as dank as fuck in our beers, you know? And we still get that berry undertone from it that you might be looking for. But like with our Mosaics, you tried a beer earlier, you know, we're not soft with our Mosaics. Like I do have a lot of Mosaic that are softs and those are good to our hazies, but our West Coast, you know, we want aggressive. Like I said, it's armpit and dank. And can I drop farm names right now? Like
Sure.
Brewlot Farms. We've been getting Reggie's Mosaic for the last 3 years. Mosaic is one of the main hops in all of our award-winning beers. And it's, like I said, our stuff is it's dank as fuck. And it's funny, one of our local buddies in the area, I won't drop their name, but they selected their lot, you know, just talking to us. And then they're like, dude, all of our beers keep tasting like Ghost Town beers, you know? And I'm like, yeah, you know, they're like, it's just too dank though. It's like, we need to dial back the fruitiness, you know, or get it back to that fruity aspect. But, no, I mean, mad props to Brewlot Farms because we've selected blindly 3 years in a row from Reggie's stuff, and we love it. And to me, that's just, you know, we still dry hop at the 4 pound per barrel kind of thing, like most people do. But that's kind of like for Mosaic, that's what we look for. You know, other hops. I'm happy to talk about a few other varieties if you want.
Sure, yeah, let's talk about other hop varieties.
Like we can go like Citra. So we have a Citra is probably we buy the most of Citra because we have a flagship IPA in Hume. That's Citra dominant. It's about 60% Citra. And for that one, you know, we definitely go for the melon aspect of it. But I was scolded actually last year by a couple of brewers. I won't name their names, but I still look for that little like cat pee kind of thing. And everyone's like, that's an off flavor. You can't do that, blah, 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 you know, and in hindsight too, let's keep this real. Like
scolded through the selection process or scolded
drinking a beer at Single Hill, talking to some brewers who I'd never met before, told me that I didn't know what I was talking about. Because nobody looks for that kind of thing. That's an off flavor in Citra, yada, yada. But I'm happy with it. I like how our Citra beers come out, you know, and
wow. I mean, honestly, like, you know, the ball's on some folks. Sorry. I'm, you know.
No, I mean, yeah, no, trust me. And
a little bit of cat piss. There's the secret. Like, don't shy away from it.
And keep in mind too, I'm smelling a little 8-ounce pocket out of this vast majority.
Sure.
Right. You know, so, you know, I mean, and again, we select our Citra normally from Peralt. You know, I mean, it's like we naturally just kind of lean towards Washington.
They know a thing or two about Citra, so yes,
they do. Yeah. And again, on our selection, we go in blind every time, like I mentioned. Like we sniff, we smell, we know what we like, and most of the time it ends up being. I mean, like Peralt's been Citra for our last 2 out of the last 3 years, type of thing. But make it work.
That's not an atypical thing, you know. And I think that as you can tell, folks that have a dialed sensory approach to selection, because they do tend to select the same things consistently year after year, same farms, you know, same parcel on that farm, that kind of thing. And it's interesting to see those folks that are able to do that and do find that consistency so that you can kind of start narrowing down your selection over time and not just kind of dally out there. Are there, other than Citra, are there other hops that you have some kind of formed ideas about what you look for when you're selecting them?
I mean, sure, yeah. You know, Centennial. We use a lot of Centennial, and like I mentioned earlier, we use a lot of Cascade too. But that's all hot side.
That's not cool anymore. You can't say Cascade, right?
Us in Sierra Nevada. No, but Centennial will change your approach a little bit, right? You know, like we try and chase that old school grapefruit that people went after. But, you know, nowadays it's kind of, because Centennial went like lemony for a little while. And I wasn't the biggest fan when it kind of went that lemon route. I kind of go back to the orange blossom, grapefruit blossom kind of Centennial. But again, when it all comes down, like we'll sniff 6 lots of Centennial, knock out the lemon ones right off the bat, and then we'll kind of come to the ones like how close are we to marmalade, and then which one gives you that wasabi sensation, right? And then that's kind of like how our deciding factor there. But yeah, like to me, like good Centennial has got a marmalade aspect to it, and we use a lot of Centennial here.
How much, through that selection process, do you make decisions about the next year's beer, saying, hey, I didn't find what I wanted out of this kind of thing, and I'm instead inspired by this other thing. Maybe we should think about how we move things in a different direction so that I can, find something to do with this because this sparks an idea in me.
So on the rub itself, you usually always get excited about everything. So you can almost have to wait until you get the T90s or the cryo or whatever in-house. And then you smell it. And then you kind of start making up your mind about things. So some beer, some hops, we'll open up a bag and it doesn't come across nearly close to what our notes were. So you got to brew a batch or two with it. Kind of see how it's playing the role. Is this going to come off fruitier than we thought? Is it going to come off more dank than we thought? Every now and then OG comes through, which we didn't detect. Like we'll go through our stuff, read our notes.
Blackcurrant.
Excuse me. Yeah.
Allium. I love that term for it.
Yes, blackcurrant, as Dr. Ron would say,
exactly.
Who I will quote all day long. But yeah, no, to me, that's what's fun, because it's like we get all our new hops in February, and then we spend March, April, May dialing in our beers again, and unfortunately, we do have a flagship, which I was telling you about, our Inhume West Coast IPA, which is Centennial, Simcoe, Citra, little Cascade. So, I try and get those as close as I can just by senses, and then we'll just kind of mix, it's a lot of other brewers with that. It takes you a few batches of tasting it to kind of really get it. Like for me, it's like off the, going back to your question, the dry hop rub, sure, everything fucking smells good. Like, and they get you too. You go in there, you have a few beers and they're like, smell this new experimental. You're like, fucking give me 10 boxes. And you're like, smell this new experimental. Like 20 boxes. You got cryo? 6 boxes of cryo. And then all of a sudden I'm looking at my contracts. I'm like, the fuck did I just do? Shit. Okay. I got to make some new beers here.
The hop regret is real.
Oh, it is. But when you're sitting there and everything rubs great,
Yeah.
It's just, it doesn't always come across that way in the bag and cross that way in the beer, and there's so many new experimental hops right now. So, and they're good at it, and they give you a few pints and get you lubed up. And so I got to be better about that. But, ultimately, we'll smell the hops, we'll try a beer with it, and then we'll evaluate it from there, and we'll continue on, and if it's something we're not super excited about, we'll trash it. If it's not a quality hop, we'll trash it. Or we have great relationships with our suppliers, and they're awesome. If it's not something that we're stoked on, they'll swap lots with us and work with us, but fortunately that hasn't been a problem lately, but everybody we work with they're awesome. I think everybody wants the same goal here, like a good product, happy customers, and hops that we're happy with, but
yeah. As you're going through that rub, how do you, as a brewer, you are working with these ingredients from the moment that you rub them in the selection through opening that bag and through drinking the finished product. What are some of those characteristics in some of these particular common popular hops that you might smell in that selection process that don't make it through into the finished beer? What are some of those things that you catch in smaller amounts maybe as you're going through the selection process that as they go through fermentation they might amplify and you might get more of those? How do you talk to me about that creative process of envisioning how these things that you're sampling, rubbing, and smelling as a raw product, how you can envision how those are going to follow through your whole production process, hot side and cold side, and into a finished beer. What do you pay attention to? What do you not pay attention to?
Sure. I'll go back to, again, we're a little more artistically driven than,
Sure.
I follow oil content and I follow things like that, but we're also part of hop quality group. So we're taught, oil quality over oil quantity, which I'm a firm believer of from other things in life. But
you're drinking the Kool-Aid.
Yeah. But I see what's on paper. Sure. But when it's all said and done, we have to, the nose knows. You have to trust your nose. So let's say let's go back to our mosaics. So we're rubbing our mosaics and you're smelling it and you're like, this one has a Mamba mango kind of thing going. Wow, this one over here has a passion fruit guava thing going and is a little bit brighter and kind of, like, again, I'm going to come back. I'm going to keep coming back to my wasabi sense.
The tongue click.
Well, the tongue click, but it all, to me, like, honestly, dude, like the triggers, it's when it hits this part of my nostril right here. But, so we'll be rubbing it. So like, to me, it's like, okay, I'll smell some mosaics and they have that, fake fruit, kind of like candy fruit kind of smell. I don't like that. I don't want that. To me, that's going to come across as too sweet. The aroma is going to be too sweet. It might be kind of powerful right up front, but it's not going to carry over through the course of consuming that beer. When I get that super bright, this is just me. Sorry. That super bright tropical fucking mosaic that's stinging me, but also smells a little bit like my armpit after about a 4-day camping trip. I know that little bit of armpit is going to amplify that aroma that I get, from that berry and all that. And I come back, like, I have this, I wish I could say in a scientific way, but like that the sensation I feel, I just know it's going to like reek. I know it's going to fucking pop. Again, now you have to have healthy fermentation processes, healthy yeast and all this other stuff to make that actually happen. But like, I feel confident. Like I stride for that. Oh, sorry. Is that, did that?
No, I know what you're saying. I think, if I were to try to articulate it, I think what you're striving for is some sort of like, if I were thinking about it in visual terms, like, your photo editing software would be your contrast, that, you can make really saturated colors and they can just feel kind of gross and overdone. But if you, amplify some of the definition and do that through like a clarity filter, and then you also, pump some of that contrast, that kind of light, dark, kind of dichotomy, that up and down. And if you can have some of that fruit and some of that armpit, that like pumping that kind of contrast is the thing that makes something really interesting. And, and kind of, if I think about it again in photo editing terms, which I hope people understand this, because now we all have photo editors, we all post on social media, and Instagram filters are, that's just like a broad cultural thing, right? You use that kind of clarity function, you use that kind of contrast, and all of a sudden now you get more edge definition. And now you see all of these kinds of, these kind of, sharper lines through your photo rather than these kinds of soft edges. And that kind of contrast just makes things feel more vivid. It's not just pushing the saturation of the colors themselves, because, if you're just doing that, then it just kind of looks gross and overdone. But when you have that contrast, then it adds that kind of crispness to all of it. And you have this kind of light and dark push and pull. And, it sounds like that kind of dynamic is the thing that you're striving for in there. It's also like, loud and soft in music. If it's all loud, then where's the tension lie? You've got to have those soft moments that pull you in so you can crush people as it gets loud, right? To pull in our metal metaphors here.
Yes, exactly. Oh no, that's a great way to put it. So yeah.
So how do you then, are there other hops that you count on to kind of help create some of that tension? And are there some other hops that you rely on to, help create some of that, joyous release, as you're building this tension within these hoppy beers? How do you balance those two things?
Yeah. So, we will, so lately we'll give you another hop that we're obsessed with right now is Nelson. So like you get,
I knew I liked you for some,
who doesn't like Nelson?
Who can hate Nelson?
Especially with all, from my understanding, this is one of the best crop years of Nelson that's supposed to be coming out here soon.
That's what Dr. Ron says. So, I'll believe him on that.
Hey, Dr. Ron's sweet. But yeah, no. So like, yeah. So like you got your mosaic, does this thing, plays well with others. Citra does this thing, pretty much plays well with others. Let's say we'll throw that Nelson in there now. So our Nelson, depending on the yeast strain that we use or how we ferment the beer or at what point we dry hop with it, that Nelson now is going to add in either a diesel character, or that diesel file kind of, which we strive for. Our Nelson, first off, is we like a little higher alpha, a little later harvest, not OG, but they kind of, the diesel thing. It's kind of like, I think Cellar Maker set the standards out here in the West Coast for what we all want for Nelson.
Yeah, but don't they have like 5 different Nelson selections also that they all combine in one beer because they're nerds like that?
I'm sure they do. I'm sure. But they taught us all about that beautiful hop. But so we'll take that hop, and then I know certain beers like mixed with Mosaic, the diesel will come out. Yeah, I mix it with some Citra, the diesel, and we'll get some fruitiness out of it. It's kind of a damn man.
No, you can push it in different directions based on and what you're trying to achieve with it. That it's not just it's not a one note hop that provides one thing in that kind of context. How do you coax? Are there some things that you pair it with in order to coax out some of these different characters? What do you find yourself leaning on, and when you're blending in with Nelson for that kind of for this kind of beers?
Well, so for a hop, another hop that we might be leaning on would be some sort of cryo of some sort. Typically Mosaic, Simcoe, Citra.
Why cryo?
First off, we love the cryo
specifically cryo with Nelson T90s, just because the cryo has some sort of intensity to it, or
what? No, so for the cryo, I kind of have a philosophy on ratios, right? We can do so much T90 before we hit this over bundle like a vegetable flavor profile. Then we'll dial in our cryo.
How much is so much?
We typically keep it to about 2.5, max 3 pounds per barrel of T90, hot, dry hop. And then anything past that will be cryo, just so we can keep our vegetable matter in check as far as our flavor profile goes to us, Same thing with hot side. Hot side, we try and keep it to no more than 1 pound per barrel of T90, and then cryo or extracts will play the role there to kind of, clean up that vegetable matter.
But you still always blend those two because you want some of that.
Oh, blend those two. And also our cryos and our T90s are from 2 different farms, and they have 2 different flavor profiles too. So that kind of comes back to like the 3 lots of Mosaic. Same hop, but so we know how they work. So like for instance, we have a beer that's 50-50 Mosaic Nelson. Now that we just use Nelson cryo, you're like, shit, I want to use more of this. It was so dank.
They got you hooked.
Oh my God, so good. But that one will tend to go lighter on the cryo, but just because our T90s are not as OG as our cryo is. And the 2 of them just play so well together, and it lets that diesel kind of come out in the Nelson. While some other beer, like a double IPA, for instance, we go cryo heavy, right? Because we need to get that dry hop up at 7 pounds per barrel or 5 pounds or whatever the ratio is for that particular beer. That's the belief behind it, is just it fills in that vegetable matter space. We kind of just keep it clean there. But I don't think I'm actually answering your question.
No, I mean that's an interesting one. But are there other like specific varietals other than the format of the hop that you find that bring out some of those different Nelson characteristics?
Rawaka, obviously it's very expensive and low alpha, so it's kind of a waste to use here and there, but you can sub some Rawaka to bring out those Nelson things that you really would like. Like for our New Zealand hops, we're Rawaka, Nelson, Nectaron. That's pretty much kind of where we go. We throw in a little Motueka, Waimea here and there and all that. But coming back to the Nelson part of it, our Nelsons are also just like crazy fruit, crazy diesel, and I think a lot of it comes down to the yeast strains that we're using too, and then the temperature that we're fermenting at for our ultimate flavor profile and aroma and all that. So, my reputation is to be shot. I went to hops straight out of the gate here, and we're going to keep talking about hops, because there's definitely some more that I want to talk to you about there. Before we do that, are you ready to start canning your craft beverages? Twin Monkeys Beverage Systems is here to help. This troop of engineers, service techs, and microbrew fanatics offer customizable packaging solutions for every craft. Their canning lines are affordable, made in the USA, and engineered to grow alongside
the needs of your business. Visit twinmonkeys.net today to learn just how easy it is to get your craft into cans, and discover a whole soft lager range by Fermentis, covering traditional to modern style lagers. Soft Lager S189 for elegant lagers with floral notes, Soft Lager S23 for fruity and hoppy ones, and Soft Lager W3470 for your neutral beers. Available in 500 grams, 100 grams, and 11.5 gram formats. And ABS Commercial has been a full-service brewery outfitter for over 10 years. They're proud to offer brew houses, tanks, keg washers, and small parts to brewers across the country, as well as equipment for distilling, cider making, wine making, and more. They know the ins and outs of the brewing and installation process and can design the perfect setup for you, whether you're just starting out or looking to expand. Contact them today at sales@abs-commercial.com to discuss your customized brewery needs. ABS Commercial, we are brewers. So Justin, I promise we're going to go talk about all the other things, from water to malt, and fermentation and all of those other things. But I kind of feel like, I'm talking about hops in a way that even on some of the recent West Coast IPA podcasts, haven't really talked about hops from this kind of creative perspective. And so I appreciate your viewpoint on this. Let me pop back. Are there, there's some other interesting hops, or maybe some outliers or some unusual hops that find their way into some of your blends because they either provide an interesting character in and of themselves, or they play a good point guard hop to something else and they help bring out another character, in a kind of primetime hop. They help it play better. We've talked a little bit about some of those already, but I'm curious, as you dig kind of deeper into the crates and some of your beers, if there's some unusual selections that you make and some reasons behind some of those selections.
Sure. Yeah, our main selections, we talked about Simcoe, Citra, Mosaic. But I think we all know the Columbus cryo fun aspects of that. That's one to straight up, if you want to just use it at a, 10% ratio in your dry hop to boof up some dankness, some crazy, not a lot of people are doing it. I got turned on at this.
Why go to Columbus cryo for that? I mean, it seems like an expensive way to use Columbus, which is not necessarily an expensive hop.
So you're going to open up a bag of Columbus cryo and you're going to be like, holy fuck, this is fresh cut green garlic, but you throw it into the beer and, again, I'll come back, it's garlic OG in the right amount is an amplifier, right? It makes everything else just fucking bloom, come out, pop, hit you in the fucking face. And which, this is one credit to Rip, fucking badass brewers over there. Our very first collab we did with them 4 years ago. Ian was like, let's throw some 11 pounds. That's it. 11 pounds T90 or Columbus cryo in a terminal on a 35 barrel batch. My God, it just blows up. Everything goes crazy. Columbus cryo
goes crazy. What does goes crazy mean?
Goes crazy is it almost again. I guess guitar speaking amplifies it. It's like hitting not a distortion pedal, but hitting that volume boost for your guitar solo, and it just brought up our Mosaic. Just got enhanced. The Walker or the beer we had earlier, the Mosaic. They just came out. They just came out popping more than they would have without that. I don't know the chemistry behind how it all works, but we do know that like that little touch of OG, which you fucking get from Columbus cryo. So let's say it's not any other hops. You just give it that touch, give it that less than 10% in that dry hop. You're going to make your other hops just shine better. It's just going to turn up the volume. It's going to make them go to 11, but another hop, besides, the Columbus cryo one, I would say is, let's not forget Idaho 7, which we go back and forth with year to year. It's pineapple. It's
some
dank,
folks love it.
it's
Some folks don't.
We still select it every year. And every time we select it, it's beautiful. It's great. But one year we're like, you know what? It just doesn't come across on the West Coast the way it should. So we'll just go hazy forward with it because it always does beautiful in hazies.
Does beautiful and hazies how?
It's the pineapple of it comes out
Okay.
in the hazies. On the West Coast, sometimes pineapple is just too much. You're not always look. It depends on where you're drinking your beers. But here where we are, I'm not trying to get too tropical with our West Coast IPAs. We're not even going dank. We're just going. I apologize. We're not going pine. We're going dank. We're aggressive, slightly offensive out here. But then around that, you want your flavor profile, you want your dry, crisp, yada 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 to hit all those points. But like Idaho 7, like we're finally just getting into our new lot of Idaho 7. We were dry hopping a West Coast with it today, and it fucking smelled like rotten pineapple, which is great. That's what I want. So I'm hoping next Tuesday when I taste the beer, it comes across that way. If it doesn't, then we'll reevaluate it. We'll probably throw it more into our hazy program because we know just how the hazy strains work. Citra, Mosaic, Idaho. There's certain hops that just kind of naturally just go fruit with it, and it'll just take the fruit aspects of it and kind of let those shine. But let me give you another hop. So we talked Mosaic, we talked Citra, we talked Simcoe, we talked Nelson, 586. Let's not give up our love on 586.
All right.
I do when we're done here. I get that. I want to pour you some off the tank. We have a 586 smash.
Just twist my arm.
What a beautiful hop, though. Let's, again, though, trying to figure out where it has
agronomic year for that one, if I recall correctly. But but beautiful flavor wise.
Oh yeah, but we're still trying to wrap our heads around it as brewers. It's a ever changing hop. Week 1 it has tropical fruit. Week 2 it goes a little savory on you. Week 3 it goes back to tropical. So it's
finished beer.
Yeah, and finished beer.
Wait, what?
This is a conversation I've had with a few brewers,
okay.
And we tasted ourselves. You had we had a beer earlier today that had a good amount of 586 in the dry hop. Right now, I think it's at its peak. I think it's tasting where it needs to be. But the first 2 weeks of it was almost like a muddled fruit. I kind of lost it, and then it goes into this little vegetable thing. And for some reason, 586, just from our flavor standpoint, it seems to pop after about 3 weeks, and it just kind of comes into its own thing. Couldn't fucking tell you why. I don't know why. Mosaic doesn't do that to us. Citra doesn't do that to us. Simcoe doesn't do that to us. But it seems to evolve and get better over time. Then you reach, your 6-8 week window, whatever you have, and then whatever. Let's call it quits at that point. But for some reason,
and this is with a standard kind of Chico US05.
Oh yeah, we're White Labs 001 for all our West Coast.
Sure.
Okay. Yeah, nice and Chico. Yeah, nice and easy.
What do you chalk it up to? I mean, that I've certainly experienced some of that evolution of hop character with other kinds of things, but maybe not exactly in that kind of way. That's interesting that like 3 weeks in, and this is 3 weeks after packaging, not necessarily 3 weeks after, you're not just sitting on that beer for 3 weeks before you package it and then it becomes this thing and then you package it. Like you're sensing it even after you've packaged it, that it's going through this kind of evolution. Theoretically, after you've already dropped yeast and there's very, little activity then happening in the beer.
I'm talking packaged.
Yeah.
And we're good. We're diligent with dropping cones, dropping yeast and all that.
Yeah.
No, from day 1 of packaging to day 21 of packaging, you'll continually taste a different beer almost every single day when you try it. And I couldn't, it's only in the beers that are 586 heavy, and the beers that were 586 soft. Same thing though. Some of those beers would just they would pop better at week 3, but beautiful hop. Don't get me wrong.
And what's heavy versus light? Like, what kind of threshold or like what percentage basis are you going to start seeing this kind of chameleon 586, impact come into being?
Well, so a week later, half a week,
maybe we should copyright some name around that right now, just so we can protect it if this is what the hop's going to be about.
Oh no, totally. No, it's week 3. I find it's
if anchovy can be a hop name, then chameleon could also be one too.
Seagull Ranch. And hey, it's a beautiful hop though. But come on, man, how can we sell that? No. I would just say at no point is it bad. So let me be clear here. At no point is it bad. It's just this cool evolution of like flavor profile. But I would say at week 3, you legitly, you're like, oh, that tastes like 586. That tastes like what I smell, like what I remember 586 tasting like. For some reason, it just takes a minute for it to come into its own. It's just fruitier. I don't know, but it changes with whatever hop profile. That's why I'm excited. This beer that we just transferred today that we carved up, 100% 586. So it'll be a fun one to kind of just taste it day by day by day by day without any other hops influencing it and kind of.
Oh, and it's 100% 586 beer?
Bittering to finishing.
Wild. When you, what sticks in your head as far as sensory on 5/8? How do you describe it, in terms of, sensory to yourself?
Well, when I first smelt it 3 years ago, it was like Mosaic meets 2014 Galaxy in the same bag, and you're like, my God, they did it. But then it comes into the beer.
The galaxy that no one can find ever again. Right?
Ever. We don't need to talk about that.
We can just ask Connor and Tim about that one.
Oh, yeah. We all know. That's why we're all going. No. Either way, I don't want to talk anything about that. It will come off as a sweeter, almost fruitier thing up front. And then it goes into this little savory thing. And then it kind of brightens back up after about 3 weeks. It's kind of where I'm pinpointing it to be. So it's a great competition hop probably, right? Because it's going to probably
look at that.
Boom a little. I don't know. That was my thought process going into the World Beer Cup, and we sat in the Lucius corner that whole day. So oh shit. Not supposed to say, but who knows? But crop beer is going to change too.
Haven't you won enough, Justin?
Hey, no. Never. No, I'm joking. But I don't know. I'm still trying. I mean, this is our second year really using it heavily, and we have a lot this year. We're going to use it a lot, and I'm guilty. I actually never really used it in a hazy. So I think I need to get some hazies going with it because I've been kind of hoarding it for a lot of my West Coast and things like that. But it definitely goes through this. You can almost see it like in the beginning. It's that bright kind of like, you get a weird way I describe Australian versus New Zealand as sativa to indica. It's like it has this like tropical bright little makes your mouth kind of water thing up front, and then next week it goes into the savory thing, and then third week it goes into this almost this mosaic thing, this beautiful berry kind of. But I'm still trying to wrap my head around 586, man, because this is our best example for us to do is to have this smash with it that's coming out. But yeah, every time I do it, I blend it with some other things. They come out great. I'm happy with them. It's a hop I really want to understand a little better because.
How are New Zealand and Australia indica and sativa? I'm also curious about.
Well, okay.
Which one's putting me to sleep and which one is energizing me?
So first off, I think that's it. That's it. I think one makes you paranoid and one makes you relax. But to me, I always think of like you think of like, let's say Galaxy, Vic Secret.
I keep trying to chew on some indica gummies to try to sleep better. It never quite works that way.
No, it doesn't. It just
doesn't work that way.
No, sativa just makes you think the cops are outside your door, dude.
Okay.
Indica is gets rid of the body.
I wake up like 3 hours later. I'm like in a cold sweat, and okay, now I understand.
You just didn't eat enough. You need at least 20 mgs, dude. No, we're out here in California.
It's legal where I am in Colorado.
Oh yeah, we're good. Yeah, we love it. But no, like think about like Galaxy, right?
Mm-hmm.
And think about Blue Dream, Jack Herrera, like these bright, fucking beautiful sativas. And whenever I smell those, it's like smelling a sour candy. It makes your mouth fucking water. Now think about some fucking dank ass Nelson, some Waimea, some Waka, something like that. They're fucking earthy. They got this little manure thing to them in a beautiful way, which I always relate to good indica. It's got grape, it's got all these dark fruits, and it has a soil thing to it. And I don't know. To me, and they hit both spectrums, like in the beers too. Like think about 100% Galaxy fucking hazy or IPA or something. West Coast IPA, bright as fuck. A Nelson, no, you're gonna get dank and diesel and dark fruit. So that's kind of how I've always looked at those two hop varietals, which is it's cool. Then you can blend some New Zealand and some Australian hops together and get this cool little thing, but. As we all know, a lot of Australian hops are unfortunately getting blended already in Australia. So it's a little bit of a crapshoot for us out here. So we're not, I mean, we have so many beautiful hops from America as is, and we're getting some fucking awesome hops from New Zealand right now. We got to do what works best for us too. So
sure. We won't get into that conversation because I feel like it's one we've trod before. But but now that we've been talking for almost an hour at this point, let's talk about the other components of your West Coast IPA approach. We haven't even started talking about West Coast style Pilsner, but we will get into that too because I'm not letting you off the hook until we talk about that. Talk to me about recipe formulas. Let's start with water. Sure. Is there anything particular that you do with water in order to kind of highlight the components of these hops?
Sure. Are we going West Coast IPA right now?
Yeah, let's talk about West Coast
IPA. So we're very fortunate where we are here. Our water is almost nothing. It's pretty much a blank canvas.
Really?
Yes. Our water everywhere pretty much out here in the Bay Area. I mean, we're pulling from beautiful areas.
It's good reservoir water. Good, not necessarily aquifer, but it's just good low mineral content, neutral water.
Everything's below 20 ppbs.
Wow.
It's great. So we can pretty much build upon that. But our typical IPA water profile, we're targeting about 180 parts per billion sulfate, or calcium sulfate. We're in the 40 to 50 range for calcium chloride. I believe our calcium itself is around 80. I don't really pay much attention to magnesium and salts and other things like those are the kind of the main three ones that most of us kind of pay attention to.
Sure.
So we'll target that. So, and then, and we're same thing. We just need a carbon filter here. We're great. Our water, and we get our water tested quarterly. And it pretty much is always coming in. Randomly, our water company is right across the street from us. But I can't get them to fucking give me a water report for the life of me. And their website is 3 years outdated. So, and they come here and drink beers, but nobody will fucking give me anything. So we send our water off. But yeah, so that's kind of our water. So I would look at it as like a 3:5 to 1 kind of ratio of sulfates to chloride or something like that, So we kind of just start there. And then keep things very simple, man. Majority of our West Coast IPAs are just base malt. We're RAR 2-row heavy. We use a lot of RAR North Star as well.
North Star Pils, okay.
It's a beautiful hop. Lately, I've been kind of going with the 50-50 blend or
really?
Maybe a little heavier 2-row sometimes.
Why? What do you think about as you're making some of these decisions?
It's just one day I'm sitting at home drinking a beer. I'm like, fuck, it's too malty right now. Let's fucking dial it back tomorrow. And then the next day,
an all 2-row beer. Like, this is too malty. This is too malty. It's got to be even lighter.
But no joke. Like I was drinking one the other day and it was all Pilsner malt. And I'm like, it has too much malt character, but it's not too malty. I was like, dial it back. Let's go back to a fucking 2-row. And then we're dibbling dabbling. Like, we still use some caramel over here, which I don't know if I should say that out loud. But like, hey,
your secret is safe with all of our listeners right now.
Hey, Dingaman's Cara 8, Breeze Cara C10, and Carahel C10, right? A little touch of that goes a long way.
What's a touch? In terms of percentage.
1%.
1%.
So a touch.
And what does it do? That seems like a sub-threshold kind of level to use those at. But why? So why would you bother?
Me, the way I taste it would be I can get this fucking awesome IBU load. And I can get a dry beer. Our beers finish in the 1.5 range. But then I have this little bit of body at the back of my mouth that balanced it all out and just dropped it out. So it's kind of like just giving that body to that IBU load to dryness, because we're still, attenuating out, no sweat. It's a small amount. I pulled it out. I pulled it back in. Does it play a difference? I personally think it does. Then also it's going to come down to your hop profiles, like what hops you're using. Certain hops might be a little more aggressive than others. We tend to go pretty mosaic heavy in the kettle with our West Coast, so we can, I don't have to play with malts too much. But
you're not doing the old Zach and Evan trick of matching base malt, to the hop selection there, are you?
I mean, I should probably. I mean, Zach makes some fucking awesome. Both those guys are badass brewers, dude. But no. I mean, I'm kind of just, if I'm randomly for some dumb reason decided to use some Equinaut on the hot side, which it's a beautiful hop, but it's a cold side hop. then all of a sudden I'll be like, okay, crap, we need to, let's go 2% care on this. Or just or you can call it on a cohumulone thing, which, I don't have any scientific data to back that up, but like a harsher hop, in my opinion, can use a little bit of that body. I mean, you go back to old school IPAs, right?
Sure.
Body, caramel, all that stuff, but we still need to attenuate down low. That's our goal. We want to dry our fucking beers out. So whatever it takes, if it's a couple bags a week, couple bags, so we keep playing back and forth, but my go-to lately is just
couple bags a week,
So, sorry. So that would be 5% wheat, something like that for us. So, but I keep going back to the 1%, kind of just a little bit of caramel malts in there, and, I don't know. I feel like it lets me get that IBU threshold that I personally like.
And what is that IBU? Where do you like your West Coast single IPAs and then double IPAs to be in terms of IBUs in order to capture that punch of bitterness, which is really necessary and useful, even though people don't think they want it. I think they actually want it more than they want. They think they do.
No, there's nothing worse than drinking a West Coast IPA and halfway through that pint being like, it's falling off. You're like, I want that last sip to be like it's still like, I mean, it's falling off my, it's not sticking on the top of my mouth, but I'm got some residual bitterness sitting here, but, and
IBUs is not necessarily the best measure of this, obviously, because there are additional bittering compounds that are happening, in ways that are not measured strictly by IBU, but hopefully the software at least helps capture some kind of broad idea of what that is.
Sure, man. And I'm changing shit left and right. But right now, what I've been kind of trying to dial my things into is like hot side IBUs and whirlpool IBUs. And we whirlpooled pretty much everything at 180 Fahrenheit. Hazies are 170 Fahrenheit. So let's say our typical 7% West Coast IPA, we will target 30 IBUs from boil. And that's usually about 20-ish at start, and then another 10 around 5. And we'll get the remaining IBUs at whirlpool. And I'll target kind of the old school rule, I take it back. It's right now if you take your specific gravity, I would add about 10 IBUs onto that. So, 1060, we'd average 70 IBUs or something like that. 1058, 68 IBUs, give or take, depending on the hops. A double IPA, I mean, I'll throw everything I can at it at this point. I mean, a calculated nose goblin it says 200 plus IBUs, but it's definitely not, because there's so much extract and so much just stuff in that, in the whirlpool ultimately. Like on nose goblin is, I want to say 30 to 40 hot side as well. But, we use a lot of extract and things in the whirlpool. And so I feel some of that obviously gets lost. So it's kind of just every time we brew it, we bring in our new hops. We're like, okay, this needs a couple more BUs. Like I was talking about. That's why I'm like, we have one more goblin brew with our new crop, and we're going to kind of dial in our GABF brew batch after that, because we'll be like, okay, we're in tune with everything now. It's a few months old. It's coming to its own. So we're getting really excited about it at that point. But,
the vaunted competition batch. We'll talk about that. I want to talk about that later. Because clearly that's working for you too. And I have put other folks on the spot about that. But I want to keep following in on this because, we use IBU as a number, but the number doesn't sum up, the quality of that, right? That's a calculated number, or at least a figured number by software in a lot of these cases, not necessarily a tested number. And you're certainly also getting a bitterness contribution from the excessive dry hops that you add to these beers, even if they're not isomerized alpha acids that are typically captured by this kind of measurement. How do you figure in your own recipe, kind of ideation, that kind of bitterness, that's being added through the dry hopping process?
I honestly don't think about it too deep. I
just let it roll.
I mean, I guess to me, because our dry hop ratios are very similar for West Coast to West Coast to West Coast. So I'll kind of just take those beers, but then I know, like if I have Galaxy in there, it's going to be harsher. If I have Equinox in there, it's going to be harsher. I know which hops are going to lend more from the dry hop, right? So certain hops will give you a higher perceived bitterness than other hops will. So we ultimately long-term goal is to eliminate them from our brewing practices. But while we have them here, we will drop down the IBUs 6 or 7 from the hot side to to take in my mind and make up for what I'm going to get that perceived bitterness from that Equinox or whatever.
Right. Or at least the quality, slightly harsher quality of that bitterness that you want to soften out a little bit in other kind of places.
Exactly. Yeah. Or, just do what my lead brewer did and throw some English premium caramel in there. No, I'm not joking, but I should be. I have to call him out. Sorry. No. But yeah, one of those, it's like,
if it works, it works, man.
If it works. Yeah. But when it's all said and done, it's
there's
like
no wrong answer here. There's just, good and bad beers, right?
Right. Just you do it long enough, you hopefully know what the hop's going to taste like and come off aromatic wise. But ultimately, how it's going to give you that perceived mouthfeel because, again, I don't want to keep saying the same 2 hops and there's a few more, but they do that. They unfortunately do that. You dry hop with them and all of a sudden your beer tastes like there's 30 fucking more IBUs in there. While I'll go back to Mosaic. You go Mosaic across the board. No, you don't get that. You just get beautiful flavors. You get, you know what I mean? Right. So it's like, is that a cohumulone thing? Is that, I'm sure you're right. There's a lot of things to that, but it's
so Equinox, Idaho set or Equinox and Galaxy. Are there others that give you more IBUs, for their,
anything on
for the pound,
anything from Australia, unfortunately.
Okay.
But yeah, definitely Equinox. Every now and then Idaho 7. Again, like I said, we're just getting into our new Idaho 7 now, so I'll know next week how it plays that role. But yeah, I mean, I'm sure I can look at that on paper and get a better idea where it's at. But we kind of just trust our senses on those ones. And
fair. Well, let's talk a little bit about fermentation.
Yeah.
If you're, we've talked about malt water, we've talked about malt. What's fermentation look like for you all on single and double IPA, West Coast IPAs?
Totally, man. I will say I just changed things up a few months ago, and I'm going to stick with this. But so let's just go off that one. We knock out everything at 60 Fahrenheit, and we ferment at 62 Fahrenheit.
Why that cold?
2 reasons in my head. Reason A, it keeps esters in check. Or 3 reasons maybe. B, there's a lot of studies behind like a little bit of sulfur compounds bonding with hops, increasing aroma. And reason 3, we have better aroma, which goes back to reason 2. So like,
how much does it slow down your fermentations?
Not at all.
Really?
Because we'll knock out at 60, we'll ferment at 62 until we're at about 5 Plato, 10, 20-ish or whatever.
You're almost in like cold IPA territory down there, man.
But then
you're like 5 degrees away from there, 7 degrees away.
What's a cold IPA?
Oh, I don't know.
No. But we'll do full episodes on that later on. You just have to listen. Does it have rice in it? No. To me, it's
lucky.
It's keeping esters in check. Well, so here. I mean, ultimately, nose goblin. All of our doubles have always been fermented cold.
Yeah.
And that was also to keep alcohol in check and things like that. But we just like, man, why are we getting so much better aromas? And we're looking at our hoppy lager or West Coast Pilsners and things like that. And we're like, sure, it's a lager strain. There's less biotransformation, yada, yada. But this little extra sulfur is like just giving us this boost of aroma, So, we kind of swapped over to that. And lately, we're still dry hopping at our same ratio, 3.5 to 4, depending on the beer, pounds per barrel. But we feel like our aromas have just spiked through the roof by doing that. And the cleanliness is there. So before that, though, we were fermenting at 66, still not crazy warm, but I truly, just from tasting them, and great example, 2 months ago, we did a side-by-side. We have a 30-barrel brew house. We did a 30-barrel batch, or 2 30-barrel batches into individual tanks, one fermented at 62, one fermented at 66. Blah, 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 blah. Same pitching and everything. 62 had way better aroma than 66. We tried it again. Same outcome. So, it's one of those that's just trial and error for us. So we're like, okay, cool. Let's work with this. we're still on our usual yeast schedule.
Trial and error makes that sound random or a little like, just like this sounds like a disciplined scientific comparison that proves out your sensory analysis, and it works within the brew house and process and fermentation cellar that you have. That's not trial and error. It's it's discipline. It's discipline, Justin.
I mean, it is. No, you're right. And
it's testing. Testing these theories and then double checking them. And
well, you have to when you have the side by sides. That's the only way to do it, right? Because to me, it's not like I'm going to try this beer here and then I'm going to try it again a month later and try and remember. No, I want them both in front of me, side by side, pulled off the tank. Boom, let's do it. And then everybody agreed. They're like, yes, both times. That 62 fermentation smelled way better. I mean, they smelled great. And it's, I don't want to say splitting hairs because it was when, you can come up blindly and be like, that was 62, that was 66. So
4 degrees.
4 degrees, man.
Everything else, like, this isn't, what do you think, if you're speculating, and again, you're not watching, you can't know exactly what the kind of, processes are that are going on in that tank. Do you think, was the timing of the fermentation the exact same? Was the 62 slightly slower than the 66? Was, there a slower, kind of generation and blow off of CO2 that somehow kept more aromatics in the beer that, that's fermented at this colder temperature? And, what do you think are some of the mechanics that are creating that intensity of aroma?
Like you just said, the slower, but I will say these are still pretty vigorous fermentations. They're going just as quick. I mean, maybe they're like lagging 8 hours behind, but like we're still at terminal after about 72 hours, even at 62, and we're not over pitching or anything like that. But I mean, like when you're pulling the gravities, yes, they they are smelling a tad bit sulfur or more, but you are smelling a little bit more from that Whirlpool hop edition. I feel, like at 66, it was just, you're just, it's wort with some sweet, cool hops in it, and you're waiting for the dry hop to make it come to its own thing. But again, it's like, I want to educate myself more, and I encourage people more to read into these studies of, the sulfur compounds and all that bonding with hops. Cause you can talk to enough brewers, and anybody that uses a lager strain, like we get killer aromas when we brew IPAs with lager strains, and you also get shelf life, right? You get and is that sulfur? It sounds to me like it's fucking sulfur. I mean, as far as shelf life goes, but again, I don't unfortunately have a crazy science background, and we're just here testing daily. We're trying new techniques daily, and that one seems to be kicking butt for us right now, and the aromas are just kind of going crazy right now.
Fair enough. Well, let's talk a little bit is there anything else that we can cover on IPA before we talk about West Coast Pilsner a little bit, or West Coast Pils? We'll just call it Pils instead of Pilsner. West Coast pale European style lager with American, Northwest hops as well as New Zealand hops. It's a real mouthful. Let's just call it West Coast Pils to make it way easier.
Let's go West Coast Pils. That sounds perfect. Pils. That sounds perfect. No, I'm happy to give my 2 cents on that. We're
sure.
Again,
since you have a silver medal for it at GABF, in the IPL category, even though again IPL is a terrible nomenclature for this. West Coast Pils is I would order a West Coast Pils like 10 times out of 10 before I would order a IPL on any given menu. Nonetheless, let's talk about how you approach that, because obviously this is some sort of scale, something you don't necessarily call a pale ale or a cold pale ale. Maybe West Coast Pils is a cold pale ale.
Yes.
I don't know. Maybe it is.
Nope,
how do you define this, and how do because there were 2 of them on your menu. So we were in the tap room earlier today. It's definitely something you guys are leaning into.
Oh yeah, no, we brew a lot of them. Easily 2 to 3 of them a month. So again, this style, I think we started just making them 4 or 5 years ago just to keep our lager strain alive. And then we tried a couple from some other local breweries. And again, I'll drop another name because they make great beer. Fieldwork. They had a Mosaic lager. And I remember just trying. I was like, damn, this is great. And, back in my old spot, I made IPLs. We did all that, and you never really put 2 and 2 together, but it's like, okay, well, I can at least keep my lager strain alive in between, and I don't have to kill it off. Yeast management. So ultimately, I feel like yeast management, because yeast runs our brew house, or that schedule is what we do. So we got into that, and then we found a yeast strain that we love, which also BSI's Closterondex. I will say right now for hoppy beers, beautiful, because its ester profiles are minimal, and when they are there, they're citrusy, which plays well with hops. And we also find, or whoever, there's minimal biotransformation. So a lot of these beers with this, I'm assuming that's what it is, but their final product smells like my bag of hops. While like with a, 001, Cal 05 or any yeast, you're going to have a little malty, you're going to have some ester, you're going to have some other profiles in there. When we go back to the tap room, I want you to try our 100% Citra. You're going to open it smells like the Citra I selected. It smells like that bag of Citra. So we kind of got all this, and we're like, this is fucking cool. We don't have, in the perfect world, sure, let's get 30 fermenters and just use lager yeast for everything, and we do make a lot of West Coast IPAs with lager yeast, but we don't advertise it. We just call them West Coast IPAs, which we've been doing for a while.
See, you just hid this one from me.
None of them on the board right now.
All right.
No, we do have.
We had to be talking for this long for that to come out. Okay, I see how it is.
But there's certain hops that I personally feel work better with lager strains.
What? What hops? What hops ferment better with lager strains?
Smell better? I would say Nelson.
Okay.
All day long. We, I think Zach's mentioned our Hima Nelson before. Lager yeast.
That was one of his 5-on-5 picks.
Yes.
For I think last year for our IPA issue.
No, that's our and that was honestly I think the first time we brewed that like 4 years ago was one of those like, fuck, we only have lager yeast, let's brew this. And then it was one of those just beautiful accidents.
And so now you always brew it with lager yeast just because it's Nelson.
Oh yes. Well, don't get me wrong. I do a lot of Nelson beers with our Chico,
of course.
But not even New Zealand or mosaics, anything like the beer that won the silver was 100% mosaic, and it was everything from tropical to a fucking sweaty armpit. It was beautiful as far as I'm concerned. But yeah, I think so our approach real quick to it is like we'll cut our sulfates by about 30% from our West Coast IPA, so they're around more like 130-ish. Keep our chlorides around the same range. Our calcium's a little bit lower. It's the BSI Closterondex strain, beautiful strain, and then all Pilsner malt. Little. Maybe,
is it still Roar North Star Pils, or is this something else?
I would say 75% of the time it's Roar North Star Pils. Every now, we'll go some Vireman Extra Pale or some Gambrinus. Kind of, we're going to start playing again. We have one coming. We're doing 100% peach or Nectaron in 2 weeks, and we're going to do a 50-50 Vireman Extra Pale with North Star. But I do like the North Star because I think for those lower ABV beers, it has a nice perceived body to it, the sweetness to it. Because again, those beers they finish out at 1.5, nice and dry.
Sure,
but they don't feel like that. And we still dry hop them at 3 pounds per barrel. They get dry hop pretty intensely. But yeah, the take on that, just treat it like I gave you the water profile. I gave you that. We hop it like a pale ale on the kettle, and then ferment it at 50 until we hit about 4 Plato, and then let it free rise, dry hop it. We pump it with a shitload of ALDC because way more prone to diacetyl than your L's,
When you dry hop, how much ends up in the dry hop versus hot side on the?
Those ones are roughly 3 pounds per barrel.
Oh, wow. That's an intense dry hop on a pretty low ABV light beer.
Oh, yeah. Again,
you guys aren't messing around.
These beers were designed for me and my brewers to get our hop fix. We made these beers for us to consume because we can go home on a Wednesday night and drink a 4-pack and wake up and go to work feeling fine. And we still got our Nelson fix. We got our Mosaic fix. We got our Citra fix. So that was the mindset behind all these as we started making them. And, they took a while to catch on. Namings and all that stuff. What we called them hoppy lagers, West Coast lagers, and consumers had a hard time differentiating that a Pilsner is not a lager and a lager. You're like, no, it's all the same. But whatever, that's part of the marketing. That's not where we deal with. We just continue to make the beer. But
West Coast Pils is something that seems to have landed with people out here.
Yeah. Oh no. And it's cool. Everyone's kind of, again, in no way whatsoever did we create this, or, we found a name that
it's a movement.
It's a movement, 100%.
Lots of like-minded people inspired by each other have been moving towards this. And certainly there's some key figures along the way that have helped kind of popularize it. And I think we all know who they are. But it's kind of cool to see that, these ideas percolated very quickly, and like-minded brewers have a lot, in large ways have been all moving in a lot of this direction at the same time concurrently.
Oh yeah, man. But yeah,
so how do you make it special and give it a ghost town, twist and tweak?
What
makes yours special?
Shit, dude, it's our selected hops. I think that's what it comes down to. It's our ingredients, like our techniques are our techniques. Everyone has their techniques, but we are fucking fortunate to have some badass hops, and props to all of our farmers, props to the suppliers, and every bag we open up right now, we are excited about. All of our CY22s, we are so excited about. And as long as we're doing our job and we're keeping clean fermentation and hitting our numbers, 90% of the time the beer should, and transfer tanks are purged properly, yada yada, all that crap. But yeah, man, it's quality ingredients is what it comes down to, and I think that's what makes it special, because we are fortunate enough to select and know our ingredients and get to play with it.
Yeah.
So it's a huge.
I want to talk about the competition batch before we finish up here.
Yeah.
It's probably the worst kept secret in the world of commercial brewing, but every year in, the 90 days leading up to World Beer Cup and, 75 or so days leading up to, the Great American Beer Festival, brewers start cranking into their competition batches, the batches that are going to be, the recipe plus all of the most exacting of techniques, and with the absolute best of their ingredients, and packaged, fermented with the utmost of care, and then packaged impeccably, because that these are the packaged beers they're going to go off to the competition, to the competitions. Now, obviously, you all have seen a lot of success over the last couple of years on that competitive side. As you're thinking about building and creating competition batches of some of these beers, what are some of the parameters that you pay extra special attention to? I'm not saying you don't pay attention to these on the regular, you always do. But there, what are some of those hyper attentive places that you put extra special attention on these specific competition batches, knowing that they're going to be judged by some of the most exacting group of your own peers of professional brewers and whatnot, and knowing that in order to stand out amongst this kind of competition, these beers have to feel special, have a special character, have the quality, but also, and fit within this kind of category, but still have something that lets them shine within this category. What are some of those things from a competitive standpoint that
Sure.
That you focus on in these competition batches?
Totally, man. Well, let's, as you mentioned, we'll start from the beginning. Healthy yeast, good cell counts. Let's.
Is there a generation that you go for some of these? Because sometimes that first generation.
Oh God,
isn't
never
gonna
first.
Be, right.
No, I'm into, honestly, because we stretch our cal strains about Gen 12. So we typically, I like to get, I think when we get past Gen 4 to Gen 10, we're just like, we're humming.
Yeah.
Even past Gen, I would stretch it further, but I've always been taught not to. But our beers at
You're
Gen
gonna find
12
that
still
sweet spot where they're
yeah. So we'll time that out or make sure our generations are nice and healthy. IBUs, I think, plays a big role in these. So, because the mindset is this beer is going to get consumed 6 weeks, if not 8 weeks after I fucking package it, which, by the way, is fucked up. Drink your fucking beers fresh, for the love of God. But either way, but it's another challenge, right? You know,
right.
So then
you have to your goal point is not when you package it. Your goal point is 6 weeks after you package it, after it's been sitting for that kind of long, and that's when you need to optimize this competition batch for.
Yeah. So increase the BUs just a little bit. You know, I don't know how much per batch. You know, it's one of those, you know, a West Coast 5 double or nose goblin batch, like you taste a little bit. The competition batch will be 20 IBUs higher.
Really?
No, I mean, like our last two, when they got released, everybody was like, this is too fucking bitter. What the fuck's wrong with you? Blah, blah, blah. When you're like, well, you know, when they drank it 6 weeks later, that bitterness fucking hit its point. So you
sure.
But you know, that took you. That's I think a huge one. Take your bitterness into the mind. Obviously, DO, dissolved oxygen, which we're fortunate enough to test for. We've
got some Anton Par equipment right behind us as we're sitting here in the lab.
Our alkalizer keeps turning on and off. You know that, I mean, and it's like, at this point, it's like we've learned our hops, hopefully by GABF. You know, like World Beer Cup's not going to be every year, so that's going to be whatever. You're kind of just getting
it's every year now, but
it wasn't before. But GABF kind of like you're in full swing. You know what you're getting from your mosaics, from your citrus, from all your babies. So that, you know, to me, it's like the week building up to that brew day. Not gonna lie, I'll fucking hang out with my brewers, drink some beers, smoke some joints, and we'll just fucking have a beautiful conversation, and we'll discuss it out, and we'll see what we're feeling, and we'll drink our beers, and we're like, this is hidden, this isn't hidden, this, you know, let's bring these together. This is how we're going to use the same hops, but what is our ratios going to be? And then, you know, we'll kind of like just see where they are, you know, like that's why, like, you know, the Nose Goblin GABF recipe this year will be slightly different than the one we submitted, you know, for the magazine. Yeah, it's always going to change. Sure. Alphas change, crop changes, all that.
Absolutely.
But yeah, you know, healthy yeast, low DO, and then and honestly now, you know, with the exception of ossuary, we just go hoppy categories, you know, like, because I don't want to play the game of like, hey, let's try and win in a small category that we don't make. Like, no, let's just do what we like to do. And hopefully we can succeed or win an award doing what we like to do. But as we, you know, it's really, dude, it's just coming in, getting in tune with our hops come that time of year, because we know how they're all playing. We've done enough beers with them, and, you know, just communicating with my team, dissecting it at home. Just, you know, it's put on usually 20 pounds going into the season just because I'm drinking so much fucking beer, trying to, like, one day you're like, no, more mosaic. Next day, no, fuck, too much, you know, and then it's just, but, yeah, so. I
feel you. Every time we do an issue and we go through reviewing, you know, 300 or 400 beers, it's like, yeah, I get that. Like, we just finished up our lager issue, and I've been running this week. I getting back into the running regimen because I'm feeling it hard on my own physical fitness. Anyway. That's a distraction. Are there any other kind of competition tweaks that you all rely on in order to?
Which I told you earlier today. Apparently, I should. I'm guilty as fuck, as our last 2 nose goblins were canned off our packaging line and 1 gold. But that's
a crazy flex right there. Yeah, we just canned it off a normal canning line, and then we won gold with it, both of them.
Same with the other 2 beers too. But I will say, like, we are fortunate to have a C-Box. We can test DO.
Sure.
We can do things that smaller breweries can't, you know, and we're very fucking fortunate to be able to do that. So like you know, like we will. I mean, this year, I'm changing my rules, which maybe I shouldn't. I know, again, like, I'm going to get checked next week. I'm going back to hand bottling. I don't know if I should. I don't know. I'm fucking can't figure my shit out anymore. But, you know, like we'd go, and then, but on those days, like, you know, I mean, like like I said, we have 0 DO pickup on transfers. So we'll go to our bright tank, because our bright tank's DO will be lower than the beer itself transferring into it. And then, we'll test the fillers religiously, like for fucking 3 hours straight. And then we'll be like, all right, filler 4. is just knocking it out of the park today. Filler 4 is coming in below 20 or whatever number it is. Pull them all off filler 4 and then send them off. And then we have our,
I love it. You're selecting the filling head on the inline filler.
At least we're doing that,
okay.
And then we have
fillers. It's so hot right now,
dude. Yeah, it's kicking it. And then we have our practices. We have a cool nerdy method of sending our beers off where we're able to pretty much keep them below 40 degrees up to 72 hours. We have some packaging techniques for that. So. But yeah, I mean, that's, when it's all said and done, man, packaging is such a crucial part in these award ceremonies. Like all that other beautiful stuff, the ingredients, your fermentation, all your hard work doesn't mean shit if you can't have a properly packaged beer and shipped package, right?
It is definitely a packaging competition.
Fuck yeah.
100% is. Nowadays there's more parity on that packaging side of things and folks are better at doing that. And so then it goes back to that's the playing field. And those folks that can package effectively are now competing on all of the other mechanics in their quality of hops, creativity of vision, ability to pull that off. Anyway, all of those things, that fit. But if you can't package, then none of those other things really matter, do they?
No, not at all. Not at all.
Interesting. Well, let's zoom out here and let's talk about big picture.
Sure.
You've now, been brewing for Ghost Town from 1 barrel through a 15 barrel system, through a 30 barrel system. You've got future growth on the horizon out there that you all are considering and looking at and hopefully planning for. You've got some fantastic awards over the last couple of years and some recognition from peers in the brewing industry. There's a lot of collaborations, a lot of folks that that want to understand how you're doing this. What's the big picture? What do you all hope to achieve with Ghost Town? Where do you see this going in the next 5 or 10 years? What do you want to be? And, what's left out there for you all to achieve?
Thank you for the compliments from the peers and everybody. That's awesome. We are currently in the process of building out a new production facility, not too far from where we are right now. And we're going to have our full restaurant there. And I think, from my understanding, that's going to be our final phase. We're building out the facility to potentially hit 40,000 barrels brewed, not packaged. And then we're keeping our current location and we're going to bring in an R&D system. So this still won't get us to the point where we're out of control of controlling our beer. We can have a smaller lab. But I think the goal here is to, get our brand on the West Coast, get our brand up and down the West Coast, keep the quality where it's at, open up an R&D spot to let our brewers, create, have fun. Because I have some incredible brewers that work for me that don't always get the creative passion that they deserve because, we're currently right now just kind of cranking, for lack of a better word. But
and you make all sorts of beers. There's plenty of mixed fermentation beers that are sitting in barrels all around us right here on this side of the brewery. And, and so those are the things that maybe other folks don't, pay as much attention as to what you all do, but they're certainly a part of your brewing program.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. We try and cover every style, everything, and our whole sour barrel
as
program.
Long as it's metal.
As long as it's death metal. But yeah, our whole sour program, we have an individual that just, Steve Hood, he runs that. It's his baby. But, long-term goal for us is, we're all about, quality of life, keeping our employees happy. We provide full benefits. I think we want to build an environment where people can have a long-term job at, a career at, and get creative freedom at and enjoy their life at. And, to me, that's like I feel like that's where beer should go. It's not about just consuming cool beer, making fun beer, which it is what we want to do. But it's also like, this is a job. This is a livelihood. It's pretty awesome that we 5 years ago had 2 people staff, now 45 people staff. In 3 years, we could potentially have 100 people working, and they're doing stuff they love and we're making awesome beer. So, I want to just keep growing the brand with that, bringing on more people that can help us, increase the brand on a quality standpoint and keep the care that we keep, but also care about the people the way we care about the people. But, I think it's just as important to have quality staff that love their job as it is to have good beer. Because our beer, I don't think would be as good as it is today if I didn't have the team I have, if we didn't have the ownership that we have that gives everybody the freedom to be who they, it's a very well ran. We have zero turnover here. Like the only turnover we have is occasional bartender. Like the only time I hire is when we expand and I have to bring on another brewer, which we're flattered. I think that's an awesome thing. Like people like working here, we're learning. And when the time comes for us to have turnover, I hope it's when our brewers go to start their own thing or they find a better, you know what I mean? So it's like, I want to continue to grow the brand, to continue to grow the people within the brand, and for all of us to have lifelong careers. I think that's the goal.
That is a fantastic and beautiful place to bring this to a close. And of course, kudos to you all for that. G&D Chillers has set the standard on quality, service, and reliability with 24/7 service and support. Gambrinus Vienna has a balanced bready character with notes of honey, toffee, and caramel. Try Old Orchard's flavored craft juice concentrate blends in your next craft beverage. Join the AccuBrew community and experience 24/7 peace of mind. ProBrew's rotary can fillers reduce waste and produce higher quality packaged beer. Twin Monkeys offers customizable packaging solutions for every craft. Discover the whole soft lager range by Fermentis. And ABS Commercial is your full-service brewery outfitter. If you've enjoyed this podcast and any others, go to beerandbrewing.com, click on that subscribe button. And of course, if you're a subscriber, you can check out the Nose Goblin recipe from Ghost Town in our latest IPA issue. If you subscribe now, we'll send it to you both in digital and I think also in print format because, hey, we still make a print magazine and it's awesome. Justin, if people want to learn more about Ghost Town, how you all brew, taste the beers for themselves, where do they find you both in the digital space and in real life?
Well, real life, we're in Oakland, California. We have two locations. Our brewery is the Adeline location, and we have a restaurant in the MacArthur location. You can follow us at ghosttown.com. There's Ghost Town app, and I'm not going to lie, feel free to email me. Just justin@ghosttownbrewing.com. I'm an open book. I know a lot of OG brewers are that same way, and the more we know, the better beer we make. So by all means, shoot me an email, and I'm happy to talk.
That's like 100 collab invitations right there. Just for sharing that.
No, but yeah.
Share some beer first. Let's build a relationship before you ask for a collab. Yeah. Anyway, Justin, thank you for talking with me on the podcast. It's been really fun to sit here, drink some of your beers, talk to you about brewing, and appreciate you guys sharing this information back out into this broad brewing world. Cheers.
Hey, honored to be here, dude. Appreciate it.
This podcast has been brought to you by Craft Beer and Brewing Magazine for those who love to make and drink great beer. To learn more or to subscribe, visit beerandbrewing.com or find us on social media at Craft Beer Brew.